Yo, Stocks 5150. Today is June 12th. It's the day we all been waiting for. SpaceX IPOs today. SpaceX IPOs today. Um, the time now is 6:26 in the morning, and already the market popping. You can see here on my screen, you don't even see it. This is that notorious September contract that's been kicking my butt. And today we're up $330. And now the P&L open is minus 291. You know, this thing's been down as low as $5,000. It's just been dropping and going up, dropping, dropping. But today, overnight, we get close. We went green, but that's still up $3,000. I should have did a call. I should have did one last night on the June contract to catch some of that move. Well, this all was done mostly yesterday. Like we put this on the 4 hour, this thing went crazy. So yesterday we popped, which was still at the lower range. So don't get too excited. But we're still at the bottom half of this range, and now we're sitting here. And once again, wherever I put an order, it ends up being like the damn bottom order. I've been having bad entry points, but when I did this, I thought the market was gonna pop and it dropped. And that was earlier in the week when I did this. But we're in the contract and we held on to it. So now we're here. So we made 100 points. We made 100% move on this drop right here. So we retraced this back up to the upside. So this is where we sit now. Interestingly enough, what could happen here is SpaceX could IPO, the market could open, and it could sell off. And why it could sell off is because semiconductors, which is at 223 right now, 222, that's what's been running the NQ. They could sell that to jump into be more selling of this to jump into SpaceX, which is not listed on NQ. So, that could happen also. That really could happen. Or it could just ride the wave, which I think that's what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen, but either way, got 15 after today. I think you have 15 days. SpaceX has 15 days before they'll be listed on NQ. And then, well, all of a sudden, then what'll happen is SpaceX will be like NVIDIA, and that'll be what be running the NQ, which I think NQ is equal weighted. I don't know. Let me look that up. NASDAQ 100. Well, it says it's a modified capitalization weighted index. I don't know what that means, but we're gonna find out together. All right, NASDAQ 100 is truly differentiated U.S. large cap equity benchmark comprised of 100 fundamentally sound, innovative NASDAQ listed companies, representing a unique mix of sector exposures and prolonged record. Okay, blah, 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 blah. How is it weighted? Talk about the asset managers, asset owners, insurance companies, financial advisors. Challenges to NASDAQ. NASDAQ can, let's see, different foreign location, ducking cases. Okay, so it's equal weighted option. Yeah. So there it is. NASDAQ is equal weighted, which is good. That's good because once it gets listed on there, Yeah. What companies are on here? Let's look and see. Matter of fact, let's pull this up over here right quick. We pumping though. Today is SpaceX Day. NASDAQ 100 composite. Let's see. This is the NASDAQ. Boom. Let's see we up. Let me close this up. We up 2 point. All right, so let's see. NASDAQ companies. Let's see. Oh, Rocket Lab. Rocket Lab to join NASDAQ 100 on June 22nd. Oh, nice. Nice. Okay, so Rocket Lab drawings. Somebody's got to be leaving. Let's read this. Oh, wait, can y'all see this? Yeah, you can. Cool. All right, so let's see. Ways to invest. Da, 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 da. NASDAQ at the moment, too. You see how high it is. It's like 29,000 by a share. All right, so I was looking to see which companies it has listed in there. Uh, okay, NASDAQ, explore the index constituents. I like that. All right, so NASDAQ, 100 companies. Okay, industry breakdown. Here we go. So we got, you ready? Apple, Comcast. Wait, and is this in order? No, but we got, okay, so industry breakdown, we got all, okay, so we got basic materials, consumer discrepancy, consumer staple, healthcare, industry, industrials, technology, telecommunication, utilities. All right, so this is what's listed on the NASDAQ. Real-time market data. So we got Apple, Applied Material, Amgen, Comcast, Intel, KLA Common Stock, Packer, Cintas. Wow, Cintas is on the NASDAQ. Interesting. Huh. Paychecks, um, Lamb Research, Autodesk, Ross Stores. Yeah, they probably gonna kick one of these out. Monster Beverages is on there. Microsoft, Adobe. So who you think gonna go? You think it's gonna be fast? No, fast and all. No, I don't know. Electronic Arts, EA Arts, Cisco, Regeneron. Wow, I remember, bro. I had some Regeneron pharmaceutical. I want to say back in the day. Damn, it's $600 now. I'd be selling stuff too long. Anyway, Old Dominion Freight. I did not know that Nasdaq had regular companies in it. We learning. Qualcomm, Gilded Science, Synopsys, Starbucks, Intuit, Microchip Technology. Oh, I wonder what that's gonna do. That's up 37%. O'Reilly, Costco, Copart, ASML, 1800. Yeah. Take Two Interactive Software, Common. Amazon, Big Dog. MicroStrategies, Strategy Incorporated, 120. Okay, MSTR. Cognizant Technical Solution, $51. I wonder what that is. With a name like that, I bet you that's something that's putting stuff in your brain. Nvidia, we hear about Nvidia all the time. They only like 205, and you got ASML over here, $1,800. So it doesn't matter how much share price is. I guess it's what you. I don't know. ASML, we already know what they do. They the only ones can do what they do though. Make the moldings to make the molds so they can make the chips. The machines to make the chips. That's what they do. Bookings, Holdings, Insmed, Intuitive Surgery, Marvell. That's what everybody been going crazy over. Analog Device, ADI, American Electric, AMD. Look at that, they up at 400. Yeah, I've been had those for a long time too. ADP, think I sold it. Cadence Design, CSX, Railroad is in Nasdaq. Honeywell, Marriott, Micron, yeah. Excel. Okay, so SpaceX coming out, right? And it's supposed to be listed at 135. So you got PepsiCo on here, Roper Technology, Walmart is here. This is interesting. Texas Instrument. And these are equally weighted though. Axon, Seagate, Analem Pharmaceuticals, Google. See Netflix. Netflix is only $81. They must have split. Netflix had to split. Yeah, because I remember them being like 400. Monolithic Power, Dexcom. Wow. Monolithic Power System, they're $1,500. T-Mobile, 185. Mercado Libre, $1,600. Keurig Dr. Pepper, KDP, $31. See, so they could probably get rid of that one and put SpaceX in. I wonder which one they're gonna get rid of. Fortnite. They got Fortnite on here. That lets you know that the games and video games is making money. They got that listed in NASDAQ. Fortnite. Charter Communications. Tesla. 399. I mean, if Tesla listed there, SpaceX definitely coming. That's why they on there. NXP Semiconductor. And Tesla's usually around their sweet spot is 420, you see, so they've been sold out also. Some been sold down. Meta 576, NXP Semiconductor, Palo Alto, yeah, Workday, Google, Class A and Class C, 362, 360. PayPal, Shopify, Kraft Heinz, $24. Coca-Cola, Lamentum Holdings, Light, Baker Hughes, Zscaler, CrowdStrike. Oh man, I remember when CrowdStrike came out. Datadog, Palantir. See, in Palantir, as big as they are, they're like 132 right now. Remember, they went up high like two something. So they just depends on how it goes. Airbnb. So just because you get listed doesn't mean your price is gonna be like astronomical. And if they're smart, to be honest, which Elon is proven to be smart, you gotta go see that movie. Full disclosure day also, man. It's gonna really give shades of SpaceX. But anyway, DoorDash is listed on here. App Loving is on here. Constellation Energy, Warner Brothers Discovery, there. So I'm gonna say that they're gonna kick Warner Brothers off of here, and they're gonna kick maybe maybe Warner Brothers, and what else did I think? Maybe Kraft Heinz. Okay, I don't know about Kraft Heinz because that's consumed. They might keep that, but if they get rid of a tech company, if they get rid of a tech company, so if they do tech for tech, right? Technology, because SpaceX is definitely gonna be technology. All right, back at the beginning now. Scan this. All right, so if they get rid of technology, and it depends on what they're gonna list SpaceX as. So let me see, what is SpaceX gonna be listed as? Let's see. All right, Business Insider, SpaceX IPO, who's buying, who's staying away, blah blah blah. Trying to see who. Man, seeking alpha. Everything wants you to have a membership. I'm not getting them in. All right, so Elon Musk led the company. Let's see what else. Retail is going to be a critical part of this bigger play in the IPO history. SpaceX is lead underwriters. Juno Space plans to host 1,500. Okay, so they did that. Um, Previous reports that indicate that Elon Musk aimed to allocate 30% of SpaceX shares to retail, far above the typical 5% in most IPOs. Okay, he know how to get some money. Among the lead book runners for the IPO are Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs, J.P. Morgan, Bank of America, and Citigroups. I don't know how it's going to be listed. I mean, what category? Communications. All right, so SpaceX is aerospace satellite communications company. Okay, communications, telecommunications. Okay, who's gonna go? Either Comcast or T-Mobile. SpaceX is communications. Hmm. Or it's also aero defense. So if it's aero defense, that could be industrials. Huh. All right. So I'm gonna vote for Comcast getting out of the way. They kick Comcast out, or they're gonna kick out. If we go to industrials, I mean they could be consumer discretion, consumer staples because isn't that where Amazon is? No, where they have Amazon at? Amazon's over here, but you got T-Mobile listed with telecommunications. If they're gonna be doing satellites, that's what Comcast is. I think they'll get rid of Comcast. Nah, they'll probably get rid of T-Mobile. So maybe they get rid of T-Mobile, kick them out, and if they replace, or if they replace an industrial, like they listed as an industrial, then they'll get rid of. Shoot, it won't be. It could be Old Dominion, the truck companies. Nah, cause that's man, truck's gonna be robotic. They could get rid of. They're not gonna get rid of PayPal. That's his baby. They're not gonna get rid of. See, they got Tesla in here. Mm-hmm. All right. I don't know, man. They might kick this out. This federal, whatever this is. So, okay, if they listed with industrials, they're gonna get rid of FER, right? If they listed with telecommunications, I say they get rid of. It's a toss up between Comcast and T-Mobile. I don't know. Either way, that's Nasdaq. And right now, we're coming in, dialing in. We're right back at our order, and we're gonna hold and we're gonna see what we're gonna be. We're gonna hold and see what we're gonna be. Oh, so what did we do last night? Last night, not much. Most of this was done. Yesterday was the 11th, right? So this is most of the day. We did most of this through the day. Put this here. Yeah, so this is from 12 to 4. Seeing at 4, that's what we were at. So we did most of this run during the day. So made the money that I was gonna make yesterday, we did pretty good yesterday. We felt pretty good about ourselves yesterday. Even went to the movies. Even went to the movies yesterday. Saw full disclosure. Pretty good movie. Just listen. You'll find out. So all we've been doing here is chopping right here. So last night was flat. Futures were flat. We riding above the 48. Five's coming up. Still got room here, and we're above the 200. So all this is on the 4 hour. On the daily, what are we looking like? We're above the 200, which is good. We came down and hit the 48, and we're just chopping between the 48 and the 14. We're just above the 14 right now. SpaceX. That guy's funny. Let's slide this over here. Today is the day. This is the day that the Lord has made. SpaceX is leading the way. Put this up here. Boom. On the 4 hour, 15 minute. Because if we hit, what happened to my thing? Oh, it's over here. I'll put this at 9. Wait, I'm going to go to the 1 minute. We're pulling back now, though, so I don't know. It might not be as much as it. Oh, it has it right here. Excuse me. All right, we're retracing. Where did I have that listed? I had this up here. And I guess that's why it ain't showing up. I gotta go way up here where the price is. All right, let's see. Bring it down here. All right, we're sitting that right there. 'Cause that's what this is. This is all about SpaceX today. I wonder why my chart didn't move with the price. What does that mean? Synchronize the drawings. I don't know, but we'll see if that causes the thing to. All right, I'm gonna go outside and cut grass, and then we'll come back in here. Time is 7 o'clock. I'm just gonna leave this up for SpaceX. I don't know if if I'm gonna add some additional sound effects. Y'all want to hear somebody? Who can we put on here? We could put let's see. It don't matter, man. Nobody be looking at this shit but me. But this is my journal. So I'll go here. Google, YouTube. Okay, sorry. This chick is bad. Okay. Too early in the morning to be looking at that. DJT called off the so they trying to pump it. It's definitely gonna pump. They called off the strikes. Yeah. Okay. Peace till this weekend. Yeah, 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 yeah. All right, we'll put it on Bloomberg Business. Let this play.
This is Bloomberg Surveillance with Tom Keene and Paul Sweeney.
Do you just ignore all the noise that's
All
out
right,
there
so we're
right
just
now?
gonna leave it
What's
on
happening with
Bloomberg
tariffs?
for a
How do they
while.
impact the
Like I said, I'm
economy?
gonna cut
With
my
Alexis
grass.
Christoforous on
We're
markets
talking about inflation not really being under wraps yet.
and Michael Barr with news.
The latest city to be targeted for immigration enforcement.
The best in economics, finance, investment, and international relations. Bloomberg Surveillance on Bloomberg Radio, Bloomberg Originals, and the Bloomberg Business app.
Good morning, everyone. Tom Keene, Paul Sweeney, Michael Barr, Alexis Christoforous. Paul, remember when it was slow?
Yeah.
Like this week of June, you'd be like, how much of August should I take off?
Exactly.
And all that. What a day of news flow. Again, watching Iranian headlines. Michael Barr had that for you earlier. But yes, it is this historic offer. And what we're going to do today, folks, aggregate for you across the entire globe, the entire industry, all the different angles, and some not happy. I love the gray market article out of Bloomberg. Abhishek Vishnoi and John Patrick Barnard in Frankfurt is really quite good on banking. The derivatives market
Yes.
out front already, gaming where this thing's going to trade.
Yeah, suggesting that maybe the SpaceX thing, when it does come to trading here on NASDAQ, might trade up pretty substantially here today. So we'll see how that plays out. I'm not sure when they're going to be able to get this open. A lot of
What's
these
your
big
guess?
IPOs.
What's the experience of
But I
this?
think what we've seen over the last several years, these big IPOs, it's late morning.
I
Like
agree.
11 o'clock,
Yes.
12 o'clock, which is back when I was doing these things, we were done by 10:15.
Exactly.
But, we'll see. This might, because you got $75 billion of stock to push around the globe, so this might take a while.
We're going to have to see on that. Some of the derivative, we have 3, 4, 5 derivative companies rather pricing out a pre-market, and again, some of them are like up at 180 or even higher a little bit. We'll give you some of those numbers as we see them. Here's one that prices out on a huge amount of open interest, like $208 million of open interest. Just trying to find a warm spot. This is in Germany. Lang and Schwarz. They quote SpaceX a Thursday closing price of $208 implies a 54% gain.
Yeah. And Dan Curtis from Bloomberg News was just reporting that Elon Musk's net worth,
Right.
if the stock were to rise by 4 or 5% here
Yeah.
on the open, he would be worth $1 trillion.
And he's done that with Tesla, where all the naysayers have watched it go on a general basis up and up. Bloomberg surveillance this morning brought to you by Cohn Resnick, their private client services.
I'm seeing some problem
team works
already.
with high net worth families, their businesses, and fellow advisors,
The
bringing
thing
a
had to reload my
collaborative
app
approach
twice
to
already.
building and preserving wealth. We thank Cohn Resnick truly
Like
for
that.
heritage support as well. But I thought the Knicks were tonight.
Ooh, no.
Alexis is like has way too much sleep.
Yeah, I know.
Way
I
too
know.
much rest. That's
So
all
people
there
can
is.
stay up late. They can
I'm just
watch
grateful
it.
it's a Saturday, so I
Yes.
can stay up for the whole game.
From the Interactive Broker Studios, the Bloomberg Business Flash, wide awake, Alexis Christoforous.
Let's get to it. Stocks are getting a lift today on optimism that the U.S. and Iran are close to an interim peace deal that could reopen the Strait of Hormuz within 30 days. S&P futures up 0.4% or 31 points. Dow futures are up 0.5%, a gain there of 258 points. We've got NASDAQ 100 futures up 0.4% or 120 points. Even the small caps are along for the ride today. The Russell 2000 up 0.7% or 22 points higher. All of this as Brent crude plunges 3 1/3% at 87.39 a barrel. We haven't seen this level since before the war started in February. WTI crude now at 84.67 a barrel. Elsewhere, Bloomberg Dollar Spot Index 1206.99. Yields are lower.
Alright,
The
it's
10-year
freezing
yield
up
at
already.
4.45%. The 2-year at 4.05%. All eyes on SpaceX as it gets set to launch on the NASDAQ today. It's expected to start trading at around $175 a share, representing a jump of 30% from its $135 offering price. And shares of Adobe on the move to the downside this morning, off about 6%. The company said its CFO is going to depart months after its CEO announced plans to step aside. And this is all overshadowing a better than expected quarterly earnings report. That's your Bloomberg Business Flash. Tom and Paul.
Alexis, thanks so much. We start strong.
I'm
Sarah
not
Hunt
jumping
with us,
in
Chief
the
Market
beginning. I'm gonna
Strategist,
wait to see what
Alpine
happens.
Saxon Woods. Are you comfortable in your R squared of 92 fund owning X amount of SpaceX?
Something's
We're going
going
to
on
see
with
how
the app.
SpaceX opens. I think that you've got a great. I think that because you're selling a small sliver of this and there is such enthusiasm for it, I think you've got a great opening trade. We've got so much supply coming. You're going to see where this goes. And I don't know how long it's going to take to get into the other indices, but if you're tech heavy, you're going to have to be in SpaceX. It's
What
going
about-
into the NASDAQ, if not the S&P.
What about our listeners and viewers who are not tech heavy? They own, what is it, the VU? Is that like the,
Yeah, the Qs, the view,
the VU?
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
if you're in the
Voucher stuff.
VU, SPX, or all that, I mean, this affects your retirement fund, right?
Well, I think that the performance of this, I mean, again, we're going to see, because this is, I'm almost happy that I'm not
restart
here
this stuff.
when it's
Hold
already
on.
open, because then you have to fight about why it should have been going up or whatever it's doing. I think that there is, again, tremendous enthusiasm. I think that this is really a new front. And because SpaceX combines a lot of different pieces, it's not just the space piece, right? It's the AI piece, it's the hyperscaler piece, it's the in-space piece. There's a lot more enthusiasm for this. So getting first out of the gate, I think, is going to be important. But I do think it's going to matter a lot to the market how this is accepted.
When we see this SpaceX deal, and we've got Anthropic filed, OpenAI filed, we're going to get gajillions of dollars of new equity issuance here. Is that a good thing for the market, i.e., things are going well? Is it a sign perhaps of a top that valuations have gotten kind of wacky? How do you view it?
I think that if you weren't looking at a big change in overall technology and technology usage, right? Some people have called this another industrial revolution. There's all sorts of ways that people talk about it in very hyperbolic terms. I
This
think if
right
we
here
didn't have
is
a
giving
major
me
new
some
technology
pause. I
push,
don't
I'm
like
not
that
sure that
this
this would
is
be as
doing
easily
this.
accepted. But a
Probably
colleague
gonna
of
be a
mine
bunch
put
of
together a
platforms
chart on how
crashing
much
today.
had been taken
Yeah.
out of the market by both like buybacks
It
and the
seems like that's
combination of
gonna be
mergers
the
and
problem.
acquisitions, and how much
Let me
public
see some
stock
take
has
that
been taken
synchronized
out.
drawing
So
off.
this is a
That
big
was
push
the
all
problem
at
with
once,
it.
but it's also possible that we needed some new supply, and we haven't seen an IPO window open in quite some time. So there is
This
something to
is
be
a
said
good
for
point.
supply.
Thank you. I did not think of this. Sarah Hunt thought of this. We're not used to what used to be normal. Remember all the red herrings? I had a credenza behind my chair stacked up with IPOs and secondaries. And Paul, that went away.
Yeah, I don't know. But I mean, I suspect that if you're an IPO banker, an IPO.
Wait, Sarah, why are you here on Friday?
I know. Well, it's just SpaceX.
You got your allocation and you want to see where it opens.
I'm looking at
Paul
NASDAQ.
Sweeney with Sarah.
All right.
Red headline, Tom.
Looks like my indicator, my
NASDAQ
colors are not changing,
saying
but
IPO
oh
of
well.
SpaceX to be released for quotation at 9:50 a.m. I don't
Getting
think that means it's
something
going to
it is.
open. I think that probably means that they'll just start indicating pricing ranges for the stock. So we'll stay on top of that. Sarah, this market's been setting new highs. Earnings have been really good, and maybe that's the story. Maybe it's as simple as that. Do you think it is as simple as that?
Earnings have been really good. The question is going to be, what is the sustainability of those earnings, right? Because to the extent that every time you have shortages and you have price hikes on the back of those shortages, is that a sustainable earnings path? And right now, the trajectory looks pretty linear. Whether or not that stays the case is going to be important. I don't see how some of these shortages get resolved in the very near term. And I think right now, the appetite, quite obviously, as you can see from both Alphabet and everybody else, is enormous. So right now, that looks pretty good.
How prosaic. The New York Knicks blue button over there. Let me ask the basic question. Into June 30th in the earnings season, do we still see solid revenue growth and solid earnings away from all this hysteria?
I think we do. I think we absolutely do.
To me, that's the heart of the matter.
And that is, I think, when it comes down to it, when people start parsing all of the different pieces, that is the most important thing. You've seen some great stability in earnings, and you've seen some great growth.
Sarah Hunt, thank you so much. Greatly appreciate getting us started strong this morning here as well with Alpine Saxon Woods. Futures up 30, Dow futures up 267, the VIX 19.16. Paul, Paul's doing triple duty over here. Say the NASDAQ headline again, because I can't find it. I'm new to the terminal.
Yeah, actually, NASDAQ out with a statement here. IPO of SpaceX to be released for quotation at 9:50 a.m. Eastern Time. And again, my interpretation is that they will begin releasing some indicated open pricing information, bid, ask, that type of thing. And when it will actually open, not sure.
That's like the colleges when they release the new tuition. They go, we're going to release our new tuition bill for quotation here as well. We are advantaged here. There's a side story going on today, which is the gamble over what a barrel of oil can do. We, again, in this hour, are strong with Ed Hurst, Senior Fellow, University of Houston, here in our studios in New York. I see the charts and the graphs that say we're really, really low.
We might not even be able to trade this joint, because
define what
platform
that
is
means.
freezing up already.
Cushing, Oklahoma, the barrels are almost empty. What does that actually mean?
They're getting really worried in Cushing. We're down to about 25 million barrels in storage. For contrast, when it was 70 million barrels in storage and over, the price went to zero. So 2025 is kind of at the bottom of the operating range. We're well past the 5-year averages on the downside, and or outside that band, if you will. And the 20 million, we're moving barrels here or there, and we're about to get to a point where it's difficult to mix or match the supplies to the refineries we need.
Do you agree with many quotes? Mid-July, first week of July, last week of July, at some point out there, boom, we get higher oil prices?
Absolutely. I can't argue with the CEOs of Exxon and Chevron. That's a losing game. They don't ever come out and make public announcements like this. It's the physical market. And we've already seen jet fuel at $200 a barrel in Northern Europe. We've seen diesel at $150 a barrel. Here in the U.S., we're really fortunate. We've got plenty. We produce about 14 million barrels a day. We export about 4.5. On average, we imported 6.2 last year, 4+ from Canada, and that's not going anywhere. From the Strait of Hormuz, we were only getting about 490,000 barrels a day. We can buy it, but what we're doing is we're selling it. I mean, anyone with a commercial inventory has sold it. In the second week, Exxon chartered tankers and started
Right.
sending gasoline to Asia.
Magic day for us in hydrocarbons. Anne Marie Horton, Paul, at the Bloomberg Energy Security Executive Briefing in Houston, in Edhurst, Houston. Mike Worth, engineer from Colorado, Chevron CEO, will be with Anne Marie Horton. Look for that, 11 o'clock.
If peace breaks out today, how long will it take to really get oil flowing? It seems like there's ships on both sides of this strait here. How does that play out logistically?
It's not just the ships, but it does take time. The U.S. Navy has said it'll take 3 months to make sure the strait is clear of mines. And you know, probably with the way the U.S. has attacked the Iranian mine layers, Iran doesn't know where the mines are.
Right.
And you know, the intel sources in Washington are saying that Iran has now let the genie out of the bottle, or the U.S. has let the genie out of the bottle, and shown that Iran has control of the strait, the hundreds of miles along the strait, and they've got drones that, you know, we could buy at Target or Walmart that they put some explosives on, can fly into the bridge of a ship. There's no way to defend against that. And it's Iran has been stating that they're going to maintain the strait, put a toll on it. That's going to be a cost going forward. So at least 3 months to clear the strait to get back to what may be normal throughput, but Kuwait's got to put its wells back online. Saudi Arabia's had a bunch of wells shut in. Remember, Qatar has lost its LNG market for now. Part of it won't be back for at least 3 to 5 years as they rebuild, and that's a big hit on the diesel market because a lot of nations are using diesel in place of the LNG. So the market to get back to pre-war types of levels, maybe 8 months at best. Don't think it's going to get below $70 a barrel.
What are the U.S. producers doing? I mean, I feel like I want to run down to Houston and put a hole in the ground and start drilling for oil. I can make money at $90 a barrel. I watch Landman. I know how to do this stuff. How's this going?
Landman is the real world is just so much worse than Landman.
Okay.
Really?
Absolutely.
Now I'm sitting up interesting. Discuss, let's stop the show right here. What does Landman's greed and voracious drama get wrong?
You know, go back to the television show Dallas. I mean, that was much more like it. The shenanigans, the double dealing, the things behind the curtain that no one in the real world ever sees. Right now, we're seeing a lot of the smaller independents, and especially the royalty funds, running for the exits as fast as they can because they played loosey-goosey with all of their backroom data stuff.
All right, I entered a trade.
Don't trust AI. The
See if
AI
we can get some
overlays
quick
that people
100
are
off of
putting
this
on royalty payments,
before the market
payments to
starts.
owners, those aren't lining up.
Way to go, cut,
And
Travis.
the accounting companies, the auditors can't catch it. They aren't going back to the paper trails.
Is this like lunches at the Grove? Like, are you at the Grove 3 times a week in Houston?
Oh gosh,
Doing
no.
handshake?
No.
Guests and drama?
You'd be
and-
thinking of the Avalon Diner. That's where people go. You know, so a lot of the companies, and we saw this with Exxon. Exxon just dismissed its trader. You know, did what can only be called a bonehead swap at say $70 a barrel, and so missed out on all the upside. You know, everybody who teaches options trading says never give away the volatility, and for some reason Exxon did that. And the irony is, you know, Lee Raymond just passed away in a Forbes cover story. His last cover story before he stepped down, he said, "I don't do trading. We don't trade and hedge at Exxon. Why would I need to be an oil company? I would just have a couple of traders for the volume, the financials. I wouldn't need geologists. I wouldn't need engineers. I wouldn't need finance guys." And so it's really astonishing to see Exxon take this huge hit because as the price has gone up to $90 and $100 a barrel, Exxon hasn't been able to participate in that. They're still collecting $70 a barrel.
You know, Paul, you can go to Nuevos Rancheros at the Avalon Diner, or you can get the chicken fried steak.
Which is,
I mean, a guy.
I love that.
This is good. This is Edhurst recommended.
Yeah.
it's quite good.
It's quite good. We're going to do a remote. Forget about Anne Marie Horton in Houston. We're doing surveillance at the Avalon Diner. Professor Hurst, thank you so much for joining us with serious wisdom here on a gallon of gasoline, a barrel of oil. It is is an extraordinary news day. With our news from New York City, the extraordinary Michael Barr.
Thank you very much. Optimism from President Trump, who is now saying a new peace agreement with Iran could be signed as soon as this weekend. The president says discussions and final points have been, in both concept and great detail, approved by all parties involved. Co-host of Bloomberg This Weekend, David Gura, has more.
What Bloomberg is reporting is that the UN and Iran, as you mentioned, are closer and closer to signing an agreement to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. This is something they've been haggling over for many weeks now, as you know. And that signing could take place around next week's meeting of the Group of Seven, the G7, which is taking place in Evian in France.
David Gura, co-host of Bloomberg's This Weekend and host of the Big Take podcast. However, when President Trump posted about the approval by all parties involved, he listed several countries, notably not on the list, Iran. The Iranian Foreign Ministry says Iran has not reached a final conclusion. A key surveillance tool that allows the U.S. to collect intelligence abroad appears certain to expire. The House and Senate on Thursday failed to temporarily extend the FISA program, which is set to expire at midnight. The votes are seen as a protest to President Trump's temporary pick of housing regulator Bill Pulte to head the nation's intelligence agencies. Police in Boston are searching for the thieves who held up a lemonade stand being manned by a couple of kids, and the thieves may be two boys. The siblings, who are 11 and 12 years old, were selling lemonade in South Boston when another pair of kids walked up, showed a gun, and took a cash box. Dave Byrne is the father of the victims.
Boston police have been doing a great job. They're definitely on it. They're trying to see whatever surveillance and just trying to take the next steps in order to catch the two individuals that were involved with this.
The suspects are described as a 14-year-old and the other about 11. Pope Leo spending a final day in Spain today in the Canary Islands. He met with organizations working with migrants. Global news 24 hours a day and whenever you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Michael Barr, and this is Bloomberg. Tom, Paul, Alexis.
Michael Barr, thanks so much. Paul Sweeney, following on from the NASDAQ headline you caught, 10 a.m., IPO of SpaceX to be eligible for trading. Okay. What in God's name does that mean?
I'm not sure. This has gotten all new stuff. I think they're just trying to get a handle on. I mean, it's just a lot of shares all around the world. You got to make sure you got everybody.
So the lead underwriter, Goldman Sachs, did they put out a single line Bloomberg headline? You know, is it like F1? We'll trade the first share at
Morgan
whatever?
Stanley is called the stabilization agent. That means Morgan Stanley is going to be trading.
Okay, they're the
stock.
ones that
their desk is going to be taking care of the trading, which means they get most of the commissions today and for the weeks and months ahead. I think that's how it works. So,
are the commissions razor thin, or can you drive a Mack truck through the bid and the ask?
They're razor thin, but again, it's a gajillion shares out there. You're going to make some money.
Yeah,
I mean, there's a lot of money to be made trading the stock.
Oil, West Texas, 84. That's a new number to see on the screen. And Brent, well under 90. 87. A host of Iranian headlines an hour ago, I'll say. And they were sort of unclear. They did not move the oil market. I think that's the key point here. But we'll have to see. We have a lift to the market. The Dow futures up 300 big Dow points. I'm still getting over yesterday. Somebody had 9,000. Out 18 months.
All I know, Tom, is yesterday when you and I were on the air, President Trump was talking about striking Tehran, taking back an island, and then I get back from lunch and Tim and Carol are talking about no. He's changed course, and now we've got a peace.
Here's the date calendar for today, folks. As I mentioned, Anne Marie Horton in Houston, Mike Wirth of Chevron at 11. Before that, the Secretary of Energy, Chris Wright, will be with us. Carol Masser, Tim Stenovic, joined by Edward Ludlow. Bloomberg Business Week, a special beginning 1 p.m. this afternoon. We have Jim Chanos on Bloomberg Money, 12 noon. Good morning.
All right, got that order in. So we made our first 100 off of SpaceX IPO. Let's go. We're gonna chill and we're not gonna trade this contract until the market opens. So let's check this one out. So far, P&L, we're up 632, 652 on the day. Stock's 5150. Stocks are crazy. SpaceX, baby, all day today. Man, I'm gonna tell you what would be wild if we get this spike where I got these orders at. That'd be nice.
Markets, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, Bloomberg Television, and the Bloomberg Business app. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
7:24 on Wall Street. I'm Alexis Christophers from the Bloomberg Interactive Brokers studio. Markets are building on hopes for an interim peace deal between the U.S. and Iran, just hours after President Trump threatened to strike Tehran for a third straight day. S&P futures up more than 0.5% or 42 points. Dow futures now at their best levels of the morning, up 332 points, a gain there of 0.6%. NASDAQ futures up 172 points or nearly 0.6%. Brent crude at levels we have not seen in months, now at $86.89 a barrel, down nearly 4%. We've got West Texas Intermediate crude down more than 4% at $84.08 a barrel. The dollar holding firm, snapping a 4-day losing streak. We've got the Bloomberg Dollar Spot Index at 1206.69. Gold and Bitcoin posting small gains here. We've got spot gold at $42.10 an ounce and Bitcoin at $63,800. In stock news, shares of Lennar down 2% after the home builder posted a decline in quarterly revenue. Lennar also lowered its full-year home deliveries target due to what it calls difficult housing market conditions. And SpaceX, talking about it all morning long. It begins trading today on the NASDAQ after pricing the biggest IPO of all time. Elon Musk's rocket AI company raised $75 billion at $135 a share. It puts the world's richest man on the cusp of becoming the world's first trillionaire. SpaceX expected to begin trading sometime early this afternoon, and we have got you covered. Bloomberg Business Week Daily. It's starting an hour early at 1 p.m. Wall Street time today with Carol Masser and Tim Stanovic. So we're calling them in early to cover SpaceX. That's your Bloomberg Business Flash. Tom and Paul.
Alexis, thank you so much. It is June. The news flow is extraordinary, to say the least. Have they released the Duke basketball schedule for this fall? I mean, that's how early it is.
Yeah, it's a little early.
Not yet. I haven't released my essay of the year, except I'm going to do it right now. This is earth-shaking for global Wall Street. It is Arnott Brightman, Harvey Nguyen, and Shakneri. I'm going to butcher that, Cam. I'm sorry. The essay is Fundamental Growth, and it shakes to its foundations the theory of equity investment. Campbell Harvey joins us from Duke University right now. Cam, congratulations on this work with Rob Arnott. You shake to your foundations the core value growth paradigm. If that doesn't work anymore, what does work?
Well, I think we need to look at it differently. And traditionally, what's not a value stock is a growth stock. And indeed, if you look at, for example, the Russell 1000 value and the Russell 1000 growth, and you put a portfolio of those two together, then you get the Russell 1000. And that means that if the stock is not in the value portfolio, it's in the growth portfolio, which means, and this is kind of, in a way, shocking, that people will be holding expensive, and expensive I mean like high PE ratio, low growth stocks. And that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So there's a good reason potentially to hold in like an expensive high growth stock. It's expensive because growth is high. But to hold an expensive low growth stock, that's baffling. Our paper kind of sketches a new approach where expensive low growth is excluded from any portfolio.
What's extraordinary, and one more question on this, because Paul's looking at me going, we got to talk to Kim about SpaceX. But, you know, I look, Professor Harvey, at this, and it seems to be a complete shift towards the joke of Stephen Colbert, growthiness. Is value dead?
No, not at all. So what's dead is investing in expensive low growth stocks, in my opinion. Those stocks are losers historically, and they should not be in your portfolio. So growth should be measured by growth metrics, sales growth, profitability growth, R&D growth, not the stock is expensive. That's not good enough. We need to look at fundamentals, and that's why our paper is called Fundamental Growth.
This is great. Paul, did he just describe SpaceX?
Exactly. So, Cam, we do have a pretty notable IPO that's going to begin trading today. SpaceX IPO valuation, I think the analysts are telling me, is 95 times revenue. Talk to us about what this kind of deal means to you. And one of the key issues is, where does it go in the various stock indices out there?
Yeah, so this is a stock that is high growth, and it will be expensive, and you mentioned one metric. It's expensive, and that often means that the expected return going forward is going to be modest. And indeed, if you look historically at IPOs of large firms, and you look at the performance over the next 3 years, it is essentially flat compared to the market. So the IPO, by the time it gets to IPO, these stocks are often fully priced. And all of the action, the explosive growth, happened before the IPO, when those so-called accredited investors and insiders were transacting in this stock. So what I'm saying is the big upside has already happened.
Yep.
So those that bought the stock for $10 or $100, they got the explosive growth, and the retail or the average investor is left with the residual, the dregs. They could not buy the stock earlier on because they are not accredited or qualified.
Yep. Bloomberg had some reporting yesterday, Cam, that the demand from retail investors in the pre-market trading exceeded $100 billion for a $75 billion offering here. It sounds like retail, nonetheless, is going to participate in a big way.
So again, there's a good reason for that demand. This will be likely the number 7 largest stock in the U.S. by total market capitalization. It is reasonable for retail investors to diversify their portfolio. So they want some of this stock. I understand that. So the problem is that they're getting in at a very high price. So SpaceX, I'm looking at the derivatives market, is at 177 already. Yep. So, and you're not getting in necessarily at the allocation price of 135. You're getting in at the close.
I just want to point this out. He has a derivative pricing at Duke They don't have that at Chapel Hill.
Maybe
They
not.
don't have the pricing right now
They'll eventually
at
get
Chapel
it.
Hill.
Hey, Cam, another part of this deal, which is really interesting, I think, is just if you're buying stock today in this company, you've bought off on a vision of Elon Musk, of maybe even the cult of Elon Musk. How does that typically play out over time?
So it's difficult to draw historical comparisons because this is such a big IPO. Many don't realize that this company is not a new company. It's been around, for 24 years. So it's got a long track record. People know the company. It's in the news. And it is large. So this IPO is larger than the sum of all the IPOs in 2025. So it's really hard, given that it's so extraordinary in terms of the size, to draw historical comparisons. Many IPOs are small. This is giant. And also there is the possibility that SpaceX will be merged with Tesla to become like a colossal company. So again, to draw historical comparisons is difficult. Vision is important, and you are correct that a lot of people are buying the vision. They're buying this vision of extreme growth potential.
Yep, and that's 95 times revenue, Tom. I'm sure you're getting your allocation this morning.
I'm looking for my allocation. It's just not there. Farrell got his 8,000 shares as always. Professor Harvey, just for all of us at the CFA Institute, congratulations to you and your team on this research report. Folks, I'll try to get it out. It's behind a code wall at the CFA Institute, but this is foundational research on the core of our belief in growth and value. Rob Arnott, Professor Cam Harvey of Duke, and a few others. It's heavyweight mathematics. Guess what? It's profoundly important for the underlying beliefs we all have in the equity markets. Cam Harvey is at Duke. Futures advance up 41. NASDAQ up 0.5% right now. The VIX, Paul, under 19, I guess there's others to it. And I got, out on Twitter, I got chit-chat on Iran. I can't trust it.
Nope.
So I come over to the Bloomberg where I got greater veracity. And I really don't have much, I mean, there's not much in the last hour, I would say.
No, we've got, oil trading down, another 3-4% here. We've got WTI crude oil with an 84 handle.
Right.
It's a lot better than 100. So that's kind of where I'm looking to see how things are going here.
6:32 a.m. Wall Street time. Iran Foreign Ministry says framework text nearly finalized.
Okay, that's good news.
Alexis has a framework agreement with her family on the amount of Knicks merchandise being purchased between now and Saturday evening. Futures up 40. Stay with us. Bloomberg Surveillance.
Markets, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, Bloomberg Television, and the Bloomberg Business app. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
It's coming up on 7:40 on Wall Street. I'm Alexis Christoforous, and this Bloomberg Business Flash is brought to you by IBKR. Will the Fed raise rates by 25 basis points in June 2026? Trade your predictions alongside your stocks and options at ibkr.com/predictions. Last trading day is June 17th. Stocks are extending their rally while oil hits the lowest level in months following fresh evidence that the U.S. and Iran are nearing a provisional agreement to end the war. It could happen as soon as Sunday. S&P futures up 0.5% or about 39 points. Dow futures up 323 points or 0.6%. And NASDAQ futures up 140 points or nearly 0.5%. Oil is plunging. Brent crude down more than 3% at $87.37 a barrel. West Texas Intermediate crude down 3.5% at $84.56 a barrel. And the Bloomberg Dollar Spot Index little changed here at 1206.63. Traders are watching to see whether SpaceX can win markets over after making history with a $75 billion IPO. Part of the focus will be on whether the IPO leads investors to assign even higher valuations to related businesses. Stocks linked to the space industry are higher ahead of SpaceX's listing later this afternoon, including names such as Rocket Lab, that's up 4% right now. Redwire is up 1%. And shares of... What is it? Redwire. I like that name. Flutter Entertainment, there's another good name for you. It announced plans to delist from the London Stock Exchange about 2 years after the online betting group shifted its primary listing to New York. Flutter's the latest company to abandon the UK market to prioritize U.S. trading. That's a Bloomberg Business Flash. Tom and Paul.
Alexis, thanks so much. Joining us, Sonia Martin with DZ Bank. Good to have her on. We really gave short effort yesterday to the Lagarde moment and the ECB and all. And so to get Sonia on here now makes sense. You get my attention, Sonia. ECB was right to hike rates, but it won't make a dent in inflation. If the Fed has to raise rates, will it make a dent in inflation?
No, not necessarily. I think the supply side generated inflation that we are witnessing right now is pretty much outside of the reach of central banks. We have seen this in the past. There is really nothing much they can do to control inflation in the very short term. So that's not the target. I mean, the aim of these rate hikes is not the expectation that inflation is going to fall very soon. What they're aiming at is inflation expectations. They don't want to repeat the mistakes made before where, the ECB waited too long and they lost control of inflation expectations. And, reining those back in is a real uphill struggle and would then require more rate hikes than if you act preventively. So I think that's what the ECB did yesterday. Not convinced, sir, that the Fed is going to follow suit, to be honest.
Sonia, with the ECB raising rates this week, we're going to hear from the Fed next week. What do you think that we're going to hear from our new chairman, Warsh?
Well, I think they're going to drop the easing bias. That's likely, that accurately reflects, I think, the current risk profile. We're probably not going to get much in terms of forward guidance. Kevin Warsh is not a big fan of forward guidance anyway. They'll keep their options open, which is obviously understandable given the current environment. I mean, you just mentioned it in the trailer before. There's a view now that we may reach an agreement between the U.S. and Iran this weekend. I mean, whether that's going to happen or not, we'll see. And we've had promises of deals, a number of times now, and they haven't materialized. So we'll see. I'm not holding my breath, to be honest. But in that environment, I mean, the Fed's going to do? They have to just sort of take it meeting by meeting, keep all options on the table. That's all they can do.
Asking for a friend from the University of Richmond, what's euro going to do? What's your call on euro dollar?
Okay, so that depends on which way this goes. So, I mean, the dollar has benefited slightly, not massively, from this crisis. It has been a bit of a safe haven. The dollar reacts positively to higher oil prices. So, there's been some support for the dollar, which is why we've seen euro dollar trending a bit lower, although the move hasn't been very large. Now, if this crisis is resolved, credibly, I won't add resolved, I do think we're going to see euro dollar bounce back a bit. But there is, of course, still a significant risk that we are not going to get a solution. And I think, certainly on this side of the Atlantic, a lot of the media coverage is focusing now on the risk of there being real shortages by July if this isn't resolved. And if we get another escalation in terms of actual shortages, jet fuel, diesel, etc., then I think in that risk-off environment that would ensue, we probably would see a stronger dollar. So it very much depends on how this plays out in the next few weeks.
The Japanese yen, Tom, keeps us focused on the yen here, Sonia, and we're seeing 160 levels on the yen here. What's going on over there?
They're not happy. I'm pretty sure about that. The intervention did have quite a big impact when it happened, but of course, at this point, it's all completely eroded. So not happy campers over the BOJ and the MOF, I imagine. A rate hike might make a bit of a difference, but I suspect it's going to have to be another intervention, especially also, the U.S. administration is putting some pressure here on Japan. And I think there's a high chance they're going to have to intervene again. They'll try to avoid drawing a too clear line in the sand. So they're not going to intervene at exactly the same level. But at 160 and above, the risk is really high now.
Sonia, thank you so much. Sonia Martin, Chief Economist, DZ Bank AG there with a very important set of ideas. This again off the ECB rate increase that we saw this week, something I downplayed, no question about that. Very quickly here, Paul Bailey Lipschultz just continues to bring forward the SpaceX story, and it's the debut. We're going to see the debut here at 10 or 10:05 or 11 or 2. Who knows?
I don't know. It's up to the underwriters there, and this is going to be amazing to see how this trades, and the dollar amounts of stock that gets traded.
This is as exciting as if the Detroit Lions went public with our news in New York City. Here's Michael Barr.
Thank you very much. Iran's foreign ministry spokesperson has rejected reports of a peace agreement between Iran and the U.S. as speculation. It comes hours after President Donald Trump told reporters that a deal was imminent and pulled back threatened military strikes against Iran. President Trump says the time and place of the Iran deal signing will come soon to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Former Defense Department official Mick Mulroy says this won't be a final agreement, but more likely an agreement on points to negotiate.
So I think a lot of it is going to talk about what they aspire to do in the future. Obviously, they're not going to decide on a new nuclear agreement. The last one took 2 years. So this is probably going to be focused on reopening the Strait of Hormuz.
Former Defense Department official Mick Mulroy spoke to ABC. President Trump is nominating Jay Clayton to be the next director of national intelligence. Bloomberg's Amy Morris reports from the nation's capital.
Jay Clayton has been serving as the top federal prosecutor in Manhattan and was chairman of the Securities and Exchange Commission during Trump's first term. The cabinet position oversees and coordinates 18 U.S. intelligence agencies. President Trump.
Jay Clayton's an incredible talent, head of Sullivan and Cromwell. He was head of the SEC. He was now Southern District. I mean, nobody has better credentials. But Bill will run it for sure. Well, he's done a fantastic job.
Trump's nomination of Clayton comes hours after the House failed to pass an extension of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, part of pushback over Trump's selection of Bill Pulte to serve as acting director of national intelligence. In Washington, Amy Morris, Bloomberg Radio.
The Kennedy Center Board is appealing a judge's order to remove President Trump's name from the building and block plans to close the venue. U.S. District Judge Christopher Casey Cooper concluded that only Congress had the power to change the center's name after choosing it in honor of Kennedy. Global news 24 hours a day and whenever you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Michael Barr, and this is Bloomberg. Tom, Paul, Alexis.
Michael Barr, thanks so much. 14 three-pointers in the first half. The dreaded Spurs. What do the Knicks need to do to have a legit first quarter?
They haven't had a legit first quarter in a long time. That's one of their problems. They come out really slow and game after game after game, but they overcome that with these amazing third and fourth quarters.
Right, I mean, that's sort of been their MO, right? They don't come out strong, they have to get their feet under them, and then they blow us all away with like a historic comeback in the second half.
So doesn't the coach just say, stop the three-pointers? I mean...
Well, the Spurs couldn't miss. And yesterday's, the last game, they were hitting everything, and then they didn't. So, but you live
Continue
and die
to guard Wemby. Hopefully they get the calls they should be getting, which is another challenge out of their control. But, they continue to play like a very generous team, right? Because they're just sort of gelling. It's all coming together at the right time. Good things are going to happen on Saturday. I can feel it.
Positive thinking, sure.
It's just
putting it out there.
Can't stop her.
Her family, can you imagine?
I know. Yeah. They got to be sick of her.
The Knicks budget's big in the house, though, because I am buying up the merch. How you know I am.
Is the carpet orange?
Oh gosh, not yet.
Parquet floor.
Emery Horton's down in Houston at this oil conference. And Mike Worth, she must be all Nick's garb.
Yes.
On the stage in Houston.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I just think that's the way she rolls.
Houston, the energy center here.
For those of you greeting us across America, we're waiting for SpaceX here. Paul sees headlines at 9:50 and 10 o'clock. We're still unsure when that first historic trade will occur. This is Bloomberg's surveillance. Now for Bloomberg.
look at the front pages. What's making news around the world? Your daily roundup of today's headlines on Bloomberg Surveillance with Tom Keene, Paul Sweeney, and Alexis Christoforous.
Good morning across America. Bloomberg Surveillance, the way you choose to listen to us. Good morning, 99.1 FM, Nathan Hager Radio. What did he say, like 106 or something?
And it's Washington, D.C., which is even hotter. That might be the hottest spot in this
Can
country.
you imagine when they didn't have air conditioning?
I know.
They all leave.
Let's build our nation's capital on a swamp.
Wait, they still all leave. Here's the newspapers. Alexis Christoforous, good morning.
All right, I can't stop talking about it. Nobody can. When OG Anunoby made that leap for the ages to set up the Knicks in their historic victory Wednesday night, the shoes that propelled him, they were not Nike. They were not Adidas. They were Skechers. Not exactly the shoe brand you think of when you think about hoops, but the brand released their first line of basketball shoes about 3 years ago. OG signed with them about a year ago, and now Skechers finds themselves in the enviable position of maybe an MVP candidate wearing its shoes. During his heroics, Anunoby was wearing a custom Skechers sneaker in what they call New York City blue, so fans cannot buy the exact sneaker.
Okay.
But you know what? That can change. I mean, I guess for the right market, maybe Skechers will remake them.
Yeah.
I looked it up to see if they're public, because I wanted to see how their stock was doing. But they were taken private last year by 3G Capital, and it was started in 1992. I've had a pair of Skechers or two over the years.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
All
Very
right.
nice.
And I'm sticking with this theme, and I just don't care. The editors haven't told me I can't.
Am
The
I
Knicks.
Am I weaker because I've never owned a pair of Skechers?
No, I think you're
just not the demo. I'm
going to say Tom Keene is not the Skechers demo.
Yep.
All right. The Knicks are crashing New York City weddings this weekend.
Oh, because the game's Saturday.
Yeah. So think about June's a huge wedding month. Couples picked their wedding dates, a year ago, and now they're scrambling to decide: are we going to have our guests, glued to their phones the second half of the wedding, or are we going to lean in?
Yep.
So what's happening is a lot of people are doing exactly what you said. They are leaning in. They are talking about one couple here spending several $1,000s to convert their after party here in Manhattan into like a high-end sports bar, 70-inch TV screen.
Nice.
They're going to have sliders, Knicks accented flowers.
Yep.
If you can't beat them, join them.
I think that's probably the way to go.
Thankfully, this couple is a huge New York, Knicks fan. If you're not, maybe it's not as easy to spend the money on that. But
wow,
I think that's
cool. All right,
smart
a lot of
thinking.
weddings have to adjust, I guess.
And you know who? One of the celebs on the sidelines this past week, and what a game to be at, was Taylor Swift. I think she was checking out her wedding venue ahead of time.
I thought they were getting married up in like Rhode Island or something.
Wouldn't you think? She's got this gorgeous estate.
Yes.
No. She's renting out Madison Square Garden with Travis Kelce. Super romantic. It's a 3-day extravaganza for $3 million. They're renting out MSG. And I shouldn't say it's a 3-day extravaganza. 1 day is for setup. 1 day is the wedding. The third day is to break down. So that's how the $3 million comes into play. And you know what? Apparently, according to the New York Post, they're not getting special pricing. Even though Swift played like 8 sold-out concerts at MSG over the course of her career.
So she's going to really do this.
She's going to do it.
Wedding at MSG.
So
July
like
30th.
1,000 people or something?
1,000 of her closest friends and his. Apparently, they wanted a super safe, private place, which is maybe why they're not doing Rhode Island, because then you'd have the drones and helicopters up ahead, up above. But
I don't think that's
It's not. Yeah, when you put it that way, it kind of makes sense.
I know.
I mean, we don't talk enough about it. She can't go out for a quart of milk.
Exactly. It's an interesting life to lead.
It's a different.
Yep.
I mean, the romance must get old about day 3.
But I think she lives in New York, right?
Tribeca. She loves New York.
okay.
She loves the Knicks.
There you
Didn't
go.
start out that way. She was a country girl.
Yeah,
But we won her over here in New York. So there you go. So MSG having quite the year, might I say?
Yes, good point. Good point. And they've got the Sphere. So James Dolan, he is on a winning streak, like you wouldn't believe.
All of a sudden, he can do no wrong. So.
Yep. And stock is up. His net worth is
He's
up.
going to spin off the Rangers, supposedly.
Apparently, and the Knicks.
But he'll keep the ownership, but split them apart. So maybe one day, if he wants to sell one of the franchises, he could do that.
So we're talking SpaceX today. Maybe we'll do Knicks going public, soon enough.
One of the interns came up to me and said, "Your songs are so lame. You are so old. Can you play something Nashville, just younger?" I said, "Pick it. Good morning, Benson Boone."
This is Bloomberg Surveillance with Tom Keene and Paul Sweeney.
What's the process forward to choose in AI?
Where is value out there in the fixed income world?
With Alexis Christoforous on markets.
The stock up 47%.
And Michael Barr with news.
The president spoke to reporters on board Air Force One.
The best in economics, finance, investment, and international relations. Bloomberg Surveillance on Bloomberg Radio, Bloomberg Originals, and the Bloomberg Business app.
Good morning, everyone. Paul Sweeney, Tom Keene, Michael Barr, Alexis Christoforous. Huge news flow, titanic news flow on a Friday. Futures up 45, up 50 earlier. VIX solidly under 19. Where do we begin, Paul? I guess we begin with a countdown. In like 10 o'clock, we're very eligible.
Yeah, I have my SpaceX Bloomberg quote right up on my screen here, so I'll follow this thing, and we'll see what time the underwriters can get this thing open.
We're going to have to see. I mean, there it is, folks. Lots going back and forth on this. And, of course, over to AI as well. I'm reading the Citadel article right now. I'll feature that today at 12 noon. Program announcements. Let's do it right now.
Yeah, got a lot of stuff
As well. Anne-Marie Horton, Guard Knicks merch is down in Houston. Chris Wright, the Secretary of Energy, 10 a.m. Mike Wirth of Chevron, 11 a.m. Carol Massar, Tim Stanovic, Ed Ludlow.
Yep.
Cameo appearance.
I know.
1 p.m. special edition
in New York.
of Bloomberg Business Week. SpaceX is, well, at 12 noon, Scarlett Fu and I will speak with James Chanos.
Oh,
he has been on fire the last 4 days
Scarfu
on this.
noon. Okay,
Bloomberg
very good.
Money thing,
Yeah, doing the money.
We'll have to see on that. Futures up 44 right now. Let's get started. Bloomberg surveillance this morning brought to you by Eisner Amper. Eisner Amper provides assurance, tax, outsourcing, and advisory services to businesses that need more than a generalist. Whatever the challenge, we have a team for it. EisnerAmper.com. From the Interactive Broker Studios, the Bloomberg Business Flash. Alexis.
Thanks very much. Thank you, Tom. Stocks getting a lift here on optimism that the U.S. and Iran are close to an interim peace deal that could reopen the Strait of Hormuz. We've got oil at its lowest level in months now. Brent crude down nearly 3%, $87.78 a barrel. West Texas Intermediate crude just below $85 a barrel now, down more than 3%. As for equities, the rally remains strong this morning. S&P futures up 45 points or 0.6%. Dow futures up 367 points, a gain of 0.7%, and NASDAQ 100 futures up 160 points, a gain there of about 0.5%. We've got the Bloomberg Dollar Spot Index up fractionally at 1207.25. Adobe shares sliding more than 7%. The company said its CFO is departing. This comes just months after its CEO announced his plans to step aside, and it's overshadowing a better than expected quarterly earnings report. And shares at Adobe, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. And they even like raise guidance, and yet you have your two top C-suite people leaving. All right, Dana Inc. up 1.5% here in the pre-market. The auto supplier agreeing to combine with Eaton Mobility Business. It's a deal that sets the combined company's enterprise value at over $10 billion. Quick check of Bitcoin up 0.5%, $63,700, and spot gold now at $42.07 the ounce. That's your Bloomberg Business Flash. Tom and Paul.
Alexis, thank you so much. Well-timed. Amy Wu Silverman with his head of derivative strategy, RBC, and like many of our guests today, she's not allowed to speak about SpaceX, all the IPO stuff and that. We're so fortunate as well. Are you going to attend Taylor Swift's Madison Square Garden wedding? You'd be the
if
one.
I get the invite, Tom, I'm there.
I mean, I
can't wait.
You and your daughter would be the like
Yes.
the two people I know.
They'll be at the big table.
Maybe he'll be invited. If I'm invited, then the probabilities are.
We'll have to see on that. What a great time to talk to you, away from the hysterics of any IP or that. Is the data within your derivatives space fact-worthy? Is it trustworthy? Is it believable?
It certainly has always been believable, but it has always been telling you, I think this whole past year, that the market has been, one, I would say frothy, but two, far more focused on this up crash, right tail. You know, one stat I'd like to share is just, you think about a lot of these names that have been ripping up, like, your semis chains. And if you had sold an out of the money call, it could have paid for funding an out of money put. That's how crazy we are in terms of focusing on one side of the boat versus the other. And it really has been the case that people are just far more concerned about missing upside. I think that's been true since April 2nd, since Liberation Day, and that really fundamentally has not changed very much.
So in your notes, you say we saw sustained right tail chase. Does that mean people are buying risk here?
Yeah, they're risk on, they're buying calls.
Nice.
And,
See,
one thing we talk about a lot is historically when the markets go down, volatility goes up. Volatility should go down when the markets go up. Things are happy, things are calm, until you get into a cycle of greed and I can't miss this. And then actually that upside volatility is higher. We split all these return buckets. So we just said, hey, let's take all these stocks since March 30th. Let's say, how did the up 50% names do versus those that were down? More realized volatility on that up bucket than on the down bucket, because people, again, they're focused on the chase. They're not focused on downside.
If I'm running a book today and I call your desk, I think I'm buying protection today. Is that not the call you're getting?
No, I wish. And can I tell you something?
That's why I'm not trading for a living.
It's really inexpensive. And we have seen, I don't want to say there's no downside protection being sought out there. There is. It is starting to pick up a little. It's interesting with a lot of the geopolitical headlines we hear. It's very ping pong, right? So one day there's a deal. The next day there's no deal.
Or yesterday we were going to be attacking, and then the afternoon we're
precisely
we're
like very bimodal. So I think because of that, you have seen people say, hey, just simply from the idea that we could just be profit taking, doesn't have to be something fundamental. Maybe I should look at that downside. So I am starting to get a little, hey, I'm thinking about looking at something.
Is the derivative madness drifting over into institutional spaces that normally don't do this?
Yeah, anecdotally, Tom, I have had more conversations with, I would call them derivative tourists in the last few years.
Buy side,
right. So meaning our typical clients are fairly derivative savvy, but I've had more introductory calls from folks. And a lot of that, interestingly, is because they've heard about the retail side using it. So retail really using zero-day to expiry options, even trafficking in prediction markets, which are fundamentally options. And so we've had that conversation with long onlys who've never explored it before. But again, FOMO is very powerful.
Is a typical client of your desk, is it a hedge fund? Is it a mutual fund? Who's a typical client of your desk for your products?
It's all of the above. So, options are something that you can use to manage risk, but it's something you can use to collect income, and it's something that you can use tactically for something like a single stock trade. So asset managers, pension funds, and hedge funds, now they trade it in very different ways. But all can utilize the product.
Amy Silverman with us. We continue with RBC Capital Markets. Futures up 50 are now up 39, a bit of an ebb. The VIX 18.97 across the nation. Haven't even mentioned the yield space. Yields do better all in all today. The real yield comes in a little bit as an indication. The 30-year bond 5.0, 501, 502, right now 4.95%. Paul Sweeney with Amy Silverman.
Amy, we're going to hear from our new Fed chair next week for the first time. Are you seeing some of your clients saying, I want to buy some risk around that? Or I like this guy. I think he's going to be cutting rates, and I want to take on some more risk maybe.
Honestly, we're seeing a little bit of the opposite in that a lot of conversations we have had is, I don't see how he can.
Yeah, that's true.
And when we look at metrics, so just something very simple like MOVE versus VIX, so essentially looking at treasury volatility relative to SPX volatility, you've seen that rates volatility move, whereas there's been relatively more suppression on the equity volatility side. I'd say that in general, that always makes cross-asset investors a little nervous because typically they tend to think of bond volatility not only as leading, but those guys as smarter. I won't take it personally,
Yep.
but because that metric has moved, but again, you've seen more suppression on the SPX side. I think that has again caused some people to start to look at hedges.
Amy Silverman, thank you. Thank you so much for coming in today. Really, really appreciate it. Huge news flow. We have out the acclaimed T-Live on SpaceX. And what's important here is it's our lead strategist in London, Simon White. He's world class. I can't say enough about his work. Tatiana Dere is on the feed right now. This is on the Bloomberg terminal. Her headline, SpaceX fever suggests risk appetite remains intact. Many others as well. But Cameron Kreis, who we spoke to yesterday, is here this morning, and he's looking at SpaceX as well. We segue right now, as we have to, off of the news yesterday that moved the market higher. Harrison Mann joins us now, former Army major, and of course, so much of Win Without War to talk about this moment at hand. Harrison, thank you so much for joining us. What do you look for this morning, or dare I say, into the Iranian evening and night?
Thanks for having me. This is perhaps the number 38 time that Trump has claimed an end to the deal. And this is one of the more serious claims, but it still remains to be seen if he's actually going to follow through this time. I think we're seeing the rollout of a temporary 60-day memorandum of understanding, or MOU, that Trump announced a couple weeks ago and then basically got frustrated with and abandoned. And so while I hope the war is actually ended, or even the sides have agreed on a 60-day pause to work out final issues, I'm a little worried that nothing, what I'm going to say is we can't be sure that anything's changed until we see A, the repositioning of U.S. forces, or B, the actual release or unfreezing of some of these Iranian funds as the Iranian government has demanded. And then C, let me add to that, we've got to watch what the Israeli government and Netanyahu do, because as we saw Sunday, when Israel bombed Beirut in an attempt to draw Iran back into the war, which more or less worked, they're still very much interested in trying to get Trump to, quote unquote, finish the job. And so despite Trump's excitement yesterday that he'd maybe finally ended this war, he's done that before, and each time he hasn't really had the staying power to see the deal through.
Harrison, just put us in the shoes of the men and women that are actually deployed in theater here. If I'm on a Navy ship, or I'm at an Army base in theater, it seems like every day it swings so many different ways. We're going to step up our attacks. We're stepping down. We're close to a deal. How do commanders in the field deal with that?
Yeah, and I feel for them. And I served on some of these bases in Kuwait and Bahrain that until February of this year were largely considered safe havens. They were not considered serious combat deployments. You never expected to get attacked there. And as we've seen, a lot of these bases were not really equipped or fortified to withstand serious attacks, which is why a lot of them had to be evacuated.
Well,
Go ahead.
No, Harrison, to the point you made that Paul brought up, I mean, the address is U.S. Naval Forces Central Command, Building 100, Road 4015, Block 340, Jafar, Kingdom of Bahrain. That's if you want to send a FedEx package to Harrison Mann, they're doing duty. You've been there, Harrison. You've lived there. How exposed are our men and women of the U.S. military in the Arab states that Iran looks over to?
Incredibly exposed. And yeah, I did used to work at that base at NAVCENT. And I think you got to remember that most of these bases were not built as fortresses. They're built basically as offices to manage U.S. wars elsewhere in the Middle East, or to launch ships or aircraft or logistic functions for wars in Iraq, Afghanistan, Yemen, and elsewhere. And so I can tell you, when I worked at NAVCENT, I lived like many other officers in a civilian apartment building, right? If we had been under attack, I would not have quite been sure where to run to, or that I even had like a bomb shelter other than the main headquarters building. And so, we've seen, I think, the military make the right call and evacuate most of these troops. But I do want to add, I think a level of negligence has been on display here, both from the Trump administration, but honestly, previous DOD leaders, when you see that most of these bases did not have really rudimentary low-tech protections against drones.
Yeah, and Paul wants to get in here, but one more question then. This stretches from Kuwait all the way down the Gulf Coast, right?
Yes.
That's the single best thing we've heard in May and June on our men and women at risk.
Yeah. I mean, Harrison, I think for a lot of folks on global Wall Street, they're looking at the energy markets and they say, boy, is the Strait of Hormuz ever going to be free for trade here? It seems like prior to the war, everything was fine. Ships are going, no problem. But now Iran knows that it has a huge lever over that part of the world. How do we ever secure that going forward?
I guess it depends on what you define as free. I think it's easy to imagine a future eventually, right, where shipping can kind of reliably traffic through transit the Strait of Hormuz unimpeded, but it will always now be under Iranian, at very least Iranian supervision and under Iranian veto. I think it's quite likely that some de facto tolling system gets established. But even if it doesn't, I think the whole world, including the Iranian government, understands that they can shut that waterway when they feel like at a moment's notice. So I think even if traffic is restored, it's not going to be, cost free in the way that it was before. And it's not going to be zero risk the way that I think, or low risk the way that shippers and insurers calculated it before this war.
Harrison, man, thank you so much. And particularly into that window of the West Coast, I'll call it, of the Persian Gulf here, again from Kuwait all the way down to his Bahrain, where the Navy is centered, and then on lower as well. Futures just churn here, up 36. The VIX 19.06. Brent crude does nothing here, down, good $3, 87. 87.82 on Brent crude. With our news in New York City is Michael Barr.
Thank you very much, Tom, Paul, Alexis. President Donald Trump pulled back threatened military strikes against Iran, a stark reversal that came just hours after he vowed to hit the Islamic Republic very hard and threatened to seize its oil infrastructure. President Trump announced on social media the attacks were off, claiming again that a deal was close without any confirmation from Iran. Bloomberg's government reporter Maeve Sheehy has more.
We're seeing kind of a bit of a turnaround from, as you mentioned, some escalating rhetoric yesterday. We're hearing from senior officials that the U.S. and Iran are closer to signing an agreement to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. This is ahead of a G7 world leaders meeting next week. So this would be obviously a pretty big step forward. Nothing is confirmed yet. It doesn't seem like anything's signed either. We're hearing it would take the form of a memorandum of understanding instead of a final deal.
Bloomberg's Maeve Sheehy. It is now increasingly likely that the authorization for a key intelligence tool will expire at the end of today. Members of both the House and Senate are expected to leave town today after each failed to pass a reauthorization for Section 702 of FISA. That allows for the collection of communications of people who aren't American citizens and are located outside the U.S. It seems the no votes were in protest of the acting nomination of Bill Pulte for Director of National Intelligence. President Trump then announced the nomination of U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York and former SEC Chairman Jay Clayton to take his place as Republicans try to push the FISA reauthorization forward. California Democratic Senator Adam Schiff responds to the news of Clayton's nomination.
He doesn't have much experience within the intelligence community, probably no experience within the community. He has experience as a U.S. attorney, and he was an SEC chairman. Those are very different jobs than leading all of the intelligence agencies.
Senator Adam Schiff. The government's tally of new world screwworm cases has risen to 9. The potentially fatal parasite has been found in animals in Texas and New Mexico. Global news 24 hours a day and whenever you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Michael Barr, and this is Bloomberg. Tom, Paul, Alexis.
Michael Barr, thanks so much. Headline of the day, Cameron Kreis, who visited yesterday. Here's a morning note that doesn't mention SpaceX.
Okay, very good.
You gotta love that.
Yep.
Cam Kreis looking at the bifurcation between data center performance and AI CapEx spenders.
Okay.
The phrase you want to use for the chart is off a cliff.
Off a cliff. Okay.
Basically, AI's had a tough go of it. Citadel, I'm going to feature this at 12 noon today. Citadel out with a smart note. This whole tokens thing.
The cost of data.
Like if I go in and I search and AI. I go, I want a Vespa like Paul Sweeney's, that doesn't cost much.
Okay.
But if I go in and go, I want to rebuild out a west wing of a house like Paul Sweeney's 6,000 square feet.
Yep.
That's like more tokens.
Yep. More expensive.
That's expensive.
Yeah. And who's
Way
paying
more.
that? Companies whose employees are using
And others, they're
and now they're
saying,
trying to get a hand around. Oh boy.
like some are saying no.
Yeah.
Or justify
This is a
your
new
existence.
line item for if you're like the controller of a company.
We got a lot of other people looking at SpaceX. Paul and I'll give you all the information feed we can here through the morning on SpaceX. I'm looking for a current headline here to be timely, but I'm going down in flames on that. SpaceX fever, Tatiana Derry to the rescue. SpaceX fever suggests risk appetite remains intact. That sort of sounds like, you know, who would David Lee Roth would sort of do that? I think SpaceX fever. Billy Idol.
David Lee Roth is back out on the road with solo acts.
What?
Yes.
Wow, good for him.
He was just down at the Stone Pony in Asbury Park, and he's out.
Who's playing God's Country this weekend?
Oh, I don't know. Might be the Pat Roddy Band, which is always a Jersey Shore favorite.
It is.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll play SpaceX Fever. Much more on this at 8:20 Wall Street time. We are looking to 9:50 and 10 a.m. where NASDAQ has some benchmarks to get that first pricing on SpaceX. Bailey Lipschultz and our team following that tick by tick. Futures up 35 on YouTube. Subscribe to Bloomberg Podcasts. Good morning.
Markets, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, Bloomberg Television, and the Bloomberg Business app. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
It's coming up on 824 on Wall Street. I'm Alexis Christoforous. This Bloomberg Business Flash is brought to you by Golden Crest Metals. Inflation, tariffs, and volatility have some investors turning to gold for stability. To get a free gold and silver info guide and learn how to add metals to your IRA or 401k tax and penalty free, go to goldencrestmetals.com/guide. That's goldencrestmetals.com/guide. We have got stock futures higher this morning on optimism. The U.S. and Iran are close to a peace deal that could reopen the Strait of Hormuz. S&P futures up 33 points now. Dow futures up 281 points, a gain there of 0.5%. NASDAQ futures up 1/3%, or 86 points. We've got Brent crude easing more than 2.5%, now just below $88 a barrel. And West Texas Intermediate crude is down about 3% at $85.20 a barrel. Goldman Sachs cut its 2027 oil price forecast by $5 a barrel, citing higher supply growth and weaker demand from China. The bank now expects Brent to average between $80 and WTI to average about $75 a barrel. SpaceX is ready for liftoff on Wall Street after raising $75 billion in the world's biggest ever IPO. But there is at least one metric where SpaceX's IPO is falling short. The $100 billion of orders from retail investors actually pales in comparison to some listings in mainland China and Hong Kong, two places where SpaceX is actually not available to trade. And that's your Bloomberg Business Flash. Tom and Paul.
Alexis, thank you so much. We are going to digress. Can we do that, Paul?
Sure.
With
It's
the
Friday,
news flow we
summer
got, it's Friday.
Yep, why
Can
not?
we pretend there isn't SpaceX?
Yeah,
Pretend there isn't a war?
Yes.
Pretend there isn't the Knicks? Particularly if you root for the Celtics.
Oh.
You got to do that.
Yep.
Joining us from Boston, this is a personal thing for me. He had the privilege as a youth to work for Alan Greenspan, and far more than that, with wonderful academics. Jake Schneider with Atlas Analytics carried on with Chairman Greenspan the Earth Resource Satellite, which was an act of God coming out of Apollo, mostly coming out of the Dakotas. It was a part of my family heritage, and we're thrilled to have Jake in here today. We're still using satellites to look at stuff, right?
We absolutely are. Well, first, let me say I'm delighted to be here. Thank you for having me. My name is Jake Schneider. I am the founder of Atlas Analytics, where we use satellite imagery to predict GDP in real time. So, as you know, and as probably our viewers know, satellite imagery can be macroeconomic data comes out with a lag. It was medieval,
Right.
where it's Renaissance.
What's it say about our farmers flat on their back this summer?
Let me look into that for you, Tom, when I come back next time. For now, what I'd like to say is that we are forecasting GDP for Q2. That number won't be out for first release until the end of July, and final number until the end of September at about 2.5%. It's doing quite strong. We have our own taxonomy where we use the expenditure approach to GDP to break it into three components: private inventories, net exports, and core GDP. Core GDP is looking strong.
The Federal Reserve, a lot of folks are critical of the Fed, including Cam Harvey from Duke University, who we just spoke to this morning, that the Fed uses, I guess, backward-looking data as opposed to real-time data, which is something that you guys play in. Talk to us about how you think about that real-time data versus some of the stuff the government relies upon.
Yeah, so this is the core crux of the issue with macroeconomic forecasting, with macroeconomic data today. When Simon Kuznets created the GDP, National Income and Product Accounts, in 1934 and presented it to Congress in 1937, it was a great leap forward. We like to believe that we have also created a leap forward by using real-time imagery from satellites that orbit Earth every 90 minutes and have revisit on same location of 5 days. We're able to ingest these satellite imageries for the last 50 years, take that data and extract a signal that we use in combination with machine learning, computer vision, and AI to make a forecast of GDP in real time.
It sounds really spacey. Give us one example of what you do with that, like where I-80 crosses whatever the I is out in western Nebraska.
Sure.
Give us one concrete example of how you do that.
Well, I loved the idea that you're using concrete, and you said concrete as an example. That is what we're looking at. We are looking at four things: the expansion of the built environment, land use, vegetation, and port activity. And it turns out that you can use these real-time signals and extract data from it using AI and machine learning to make inference about what's happening in real time.
How is your data different from kind of what we do see out of the government? Are your GDP numbers in line with what the government ultimately reports? Are they different? How does that
You're
work?
asking about accuracy. So we benchmark against the actual data that comes out. GDP, as we know, is a quarterly statistic, comes out 4 times a year. I'm going to see your question and raise you a question, which is, do you remember what GDP was for Q1 first release?
No.
It was 2.0%.
Okay.
We predicted on our YouTube, atlasanalytics.info, our YouTube, our Substack, and our website, 2% 2 weeks before, and it's live time-stamped on our YouTube so you can see that. It was obviously revised down to 1.6, but I think the story still stands. We are accurate, and we are timely, and we can give you a real-time forecast of what's happening in economic activity so that traders and policymakers can have actual insights ahead of the competition.
What's the most predictive, I guess, flows or information that you guys track? What's best for you guys? What works best? Is it just ships and ports and doing that kind of thing?
So that actually is a great one. We do use our second algorithm, Jack, Joint Algorithm for Containerized Knowledge. You don't know Jack. Actually uses satellite imagery, is trained with satellites over the ports, and we're looking at TEUs, 20-foot equivalent units, coming in and off of the tankers to measure and map onto what is happening with real-time trade flows.
So what's your data telling you today? Because it feels like the economy's doing pretty darn well. What's your data telling you?
That's exactly what we're seeing. So we see core GDP, which in the expenditure approach of GDP is consumption, government expenditure, and fixed investment. Core GDP, the core of the economy, is at about 3%. We're subtracting off about 0.6 percentage points for net exports and adding another 0.3, so between 2.5 and 2.7 headline is what we're seeing. You might say to me, Tom, and
Right.
go ahead.
Well, I'm going to have to leave it there. We got breaking news happening right now. Jake, thank you so much. Jake
Thank you.
Schneider with us. So that was Analytics today on satellite technology. The satellite technology is maybe what Elon Musk is looking at. He's looking at SpaceX with the futures up 29 right now. We're waiting for a lot more information on that, and we're doing it around special broadcast this afternoon. Ed Ludlow has agreed to stay on the East Coast. He'll be with. Is that in the East Coast? Maybe I misspoke
I
there.
see him walking the halls here in New York.
He's walking.
Yeah.
Okay, there's been a Ludlow sighting. Maybe we'll see a Musk sighting. Carol Masser, Tim Stenovec, Ed Ludlow at 1 p.m. A special edition of Bloomberg Business Week on SpaceX. I think Paul will have trading by then.
Yes.
I mean, I think sort of like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you got a fixed price. We kind of know what we're doing here.
We'll have to see on that. And we got Jim Chanos in the 12 noon hour. He's been on fire. The other one I'd mention, besides Jim Chanos of Kinnikos and all of his short selling over the years, of course, going back to Enron, is George Noble from Fidelity Overseas ages ago. There are some significant critics out here, all of them, including Mr. Chanos, say, hey, retail may pop this thing. And that's what we're seeing in the derivatives market.
Yeah, they were going to allocate a little bit north of 20% to retail, and we know the following Elon Musk has with the retail community.
Well, we'll have to see on that. We say good morning. Paul Sweeney and Tom Keene to you again with futures up 29. Bloomberg surveillance this morning brought to you by IBKR. For the past 3 years, Interactive Brokers individual clients. They average 24.3% annually, beating the S&P 500, lower costs, and access to 170 plus global markets. It matters. Visit ibkr.com/performance. Paul, I'm going to go over it. Paul's the one that taught me how to do this. T-Live.
Oh, boy.
On the terminal.
Yep.
And I'm going to get our killer SpaceX begins trading feed. That's going to come out.
Got that.
That's going to start here in 27 minutes as well. And then we've got all the markets moving today as well. Cameron Grimes, Tatiana Dere, and others out there as we've seen in the last 20, 30 minutes.
And I'm also looking at Rich Go, RICH Go. It's got the Elon Musk value, personal net worth of $970 billion as of the IPO price.
Right.
So as the IPO price moves, his net worth will move, and he could be the first trillionaire out there on the
You more
planet.
than anyone I know understands this. Entertainment stocks Class A, Class B shares. That's not what's going on here.
No,
he runs a company. He controls the board. There's no fiduciary oversight over Mr. Musk. Is that too bold a statement?
No, absolutely not. And historically, we saw media companies, think a newspaper company or a magazine company or a television company, have dual class stock because the founders wanted to preserve, quote, editorial independence. And that's why you see that with the New York Times, for example, company. Technology companies have taken it to another level and they say, hey, no, we just want independence.
I agree.
You know, so you see Google and you see some others, and now you're going to see it big time.
Yeah, I'll have
with
to see
SpaceX.
on that. Futures up 28 as well. The VIX again 19.23. Please stay with us through the morning on SpaceX. From New York City, this is Bloomberg Surveillance.
Markets, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, Bloomberg Television, and the Bloomberg Business app. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
It's coming up on 8:40 on Wall Street. I'm Alexis Christoforous from the Bloomberg Interactive Brokers Studio. Stock futures are rallying. Oil and gas prices are sliding on hopes that the U.S. and Iran are nearing a peace deal to end the war and reopen the Strait of Hormuz. S&P futures up 0.25%. Dow futures up 0.5%. NASDAQ futures up just fractionally. So we are higher, but well off our highs of the morning. Brent crude down 2.5%, 88.16 a barrel. WTI crude 85.40 a barrel. Bloomberg dollar spot index 1207.88, and Bitcoin unchanged at 63,345. The New York Knicks championship run's expected to generate as much as $263 million in economic activity for New York if the series returns to Madison Square Garden for a Game 6. Knicks fans, though, I can tell you, being one, we'd rather leave a few million on the table and celebrate on Saturday. And that's your Bloomberg Business Flash. Tom and Paul.
Alexis, thanks so much. Is there enough news today?
Sure.
Let's
bring
do
it.
some more.
Let's do some more.
We're going to get into some Knicks discussion here in a moment, but Olivia Tam with, I'm sorry, it's a bombshell to me. I know it's another day at the races in Paul Sweeney's private credit fund debacle. BlackRock's private credit fund caps redemptions, and here's the operative headline again.
Yeah. Well,
That's what there is.
You know, what we're seeing here in the private credit is these retail investors, in large part, in some part, they don't know what they're buying. And they're buying into a private credit fund which has a cap on your redemptions. And that cap is 5%. And if you're concerned about your software exposure in this private credit and you want to take 13.3% out, well, tough luck. It's 5.
13.3% out, and they will fulfill repurchase requests for 5% of the shares. In every interview we have says this is fine.
What's clear is, I think, to me at least, some of the private credit funds here in New York City are not communicating correctly to the RIAs who are selling this stuff. And the RIAs themselves who are selling this stuff aren't communicating it correctly to these retail clients. And you get, some little...
This will be, we'll have much more on this around the news flow of SpaceX and that. Right now, patient in the studio, Max Chafkin and Stacy Vanek. So what's great about these two is there's no Knicks merch. They're not, they don't look like Spike Lee walking in the door. How is everybody's business, the heart and soul of Knicks Nation? How are you handling this glorious time for our New York City?
Well, we did actually have Knicks merch on the show. I am sorry to say, but no, we've been looking at ticket prices and how nuts they're going right now. Also with the World Cup. I don't know, the whole city's kind of taken over. It's great. I'm not even normally a major basketball fan, but even I'm like
what
super
I
excited.
don't understand, just you guys mentioned the Knicks and the World Cup. The ticket prices we're seeing, I've never seen that before, and we've hosted Super Bowls. We've hosted everything here in the city. What's going on out there?
Well, I think in general, ticket prices have gone up since COVID. I mean, I think it's a combination of more money going into sports, which has pushed ticket prices higher, as well as just events culturally being seen as being worth more money than they were in the past. The other thing is these are secondary market prices. Yep. They're not it's not what you're seeing is not the average price paid. What you're seeing is the price that people are asking when they're selling, and there's a lot of movement there. As we get closer to these games, the prices will drop. World Cup prices, the big headline has been that FIFA, the organization that runs the World Cup, probably overpriced the tickets, probably has too many games for too much money, talking about $500 for games that where there's very low interest. On secondary markets, those prices have fallen to some extent. So there's and even last night during the late game at the World Cup, there were some empty seats in the stadium.
Guadalajara. I saw a lot of empty seats there. So it's also this thing that Ticketmaster introduced to the marketplace a couple years ago, which is dynamic ticket pricing, trying to take the upside that the scalpers get by just saying, all right, we're going to price whatever the market's going to bear for these tickets, and we'll see what happens. And the fact is, if it's really good, like the World Cup, like the Knicks, you're going to get these crazy prices.
Well, that's the problem, I think, is that the secondary market is the market where people get tickets now. It's really hard. I mean, unless you're a season ticket holder, it's really hard. It becomes inaccessible to people because you have bots that can buy a lot of tickets really fast all at once, which happens at concerts. And so the secondary market is the market, I think, for a lot of people. And a lot of people are priced out. And I don't know. I mean, it's New York. Prices are high. This is a huge event. Celebrities are there. So, I mean, it was always going to be expensive, but I think I heard that courtside tickets were going for $1 million, which I don't even know. Like, I don't.
There.
I know.
I want this to be like it's.
Would you pay $1 million?
No.
Would you guys? How much would you guys pay for
I've seen
courtside
1,000
tickets?
Knick games. I'm good.
Really?
It's a real. I think it's each and every individual for themselves what they would pay. What I'd like to see. All the fancy people, and of course, I'm talking my book here. Mr. Bloomberg signs a check, and everybody knows anything about Mike Bloomberg. He's been beyond generous in his philanthropy. But all the beautiful people in the court, like Max Chafkin, and people I don't know, if they would just say, "Hey, I'm going to the Knicks, and I'm thrilled to make an X $1,000 donation to whatever."
Right.
I think that would solve half. Am I wrong?
Oh, no, I think that's a great idea. I think that could be a good precedent to start. You spend $10,000 on your Knicks ticket and then donate $10,000 to
I just
a food pantry.
PK Subban of the Montreal Canadiens in Nashville was just anointed in Montreal because he's given $10 million to pediatrics in Montreal.
Now, my concern as a fan when the ticket prices get this high is that the vibe in the arena is not going to be as good because you're going to have fair weather fans at the C and B scene. You have lots of, I don't know that the Haim sisters are lifelong Knicks fans, the ones who are sitting with Taylor Swift.
Such a celebrity.
So I worry that between all the kind of corporate lawyers and very successful, Wall Street has been making a lot of money. All the people there who are maybe not regulars, that the vibe won't be good. Although I have to say, watching it on TV, it looked
And you spoke
great.
to Bloomberg of Business of Sports reporter
Randall Williams.
Randall,
yes,
he was there.
He
told me.
I know.
And he's been to every event because that's his job. He told me that he's never been in an arena that was as loud as MSG for Game 3. He said it was unbelievable.
The other thing he said, because we've been talking about NBA ratings, they were not great last year, and they've been, of course, wonderful with the Knicks. It really comes down to the product on the floor. We saw an amazing game. You get an amazing game, you get an amazing crowd.
Did you think Relationships off their album I Quit, Haim, do you think that it had a real Taylor Swift influence? Didn't it?
Oh my gosh, what is happening right now?
No, I think it really sounded like Jack Antonoff. It wasn't produced by Jack Antonoff, but it sort of sounded like that as well. What do you think, Max?
I don't know, Tom, but that I like that theory.
There's like that. It's great to see Taylor with the girls at the game. Everybody's business. It's must listen. Chafkin, the Vanek Smith extravaganza. Speaking of extravaganza, too short. Here's the news from New York City. Michael Barr.
Thank you very much. President Trump pulled back threatened military strikes against Iran, a stark reversal that came just hours after he vowed to hit the Islamic Republic very hard. President Trump on an Iran deal says final points were approved by all parties and are close to reopening the Strait of Hormuz. Co-host of Bloomberg This Weekend, David Gura, has more.
Pakistan has been the intermediary between the U.S. and Iran as they've haggled over this memo of understanding. And I should be clear here as well. That seems to be what is being negotiated over right now. Not a formal agreement or a final end to this war, but a memo of understanding.
David Gura, co-host of Bloomberg's This Weekend and host of the Big Take podcast. President Donald Trump's board at the Kennedy Center is trying to keep his name on the building before a court-ordered deadline to remove it by today. The board voted Thursday to seek a stay of a judge's ruling that Donald Trump's name was illegally added. A Florida man is now suing several law enforcement departments after a wrongful arrest that was prompted by artificial intelligence. Robert Dillon was arrested at his home in Lee County, Florida in 2024 after an incident hundreds of miles away in Jacksonville Beach where someone tried to lure a child at a restaurant. An investigator submitted surveillance photos to an AI tool and it came back with a 93% match to Dillon.
It's horrible that this AI is put in the hands of people that aren't qualified to use it and can ruin people's lives the way that they ruin mine.
The charges were dropped last year. Global news 24 hours a day and whenever you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Michael Barr, and this is Bloomberg. Tom, Paul, Alexis.
Michael Barr, thanks so much. Sorry for too short a visit. That was my fault, Michael, as well. Paul, I got no headlines on SpaceX. I have no headlines on the war in Iran. I have no headlines on the White House. What are we going to do?
Exactly on a Friday here. So we do have a little bit of move up in stock, so we'll take that here. The S&P up 19 points.
We'll have to see on the 19 points. Sure, the market's pulled back here in the last 2 hours. Again, the signposts Paul mentioned from the NASDAQ are 950-ish, 10 eligible shares. We'll have to see when trading is after that. Please stay with us. From New York City, it's Bloomberg Surveillance. Good morning.
This is Bloomberg Surveillance with Tom Keene and Paul Sweeney on Bloomberg Radio.
Good morning, everyone. For Global Wall Street, an important essay. Scilla Brush, Olivia Fishlow just put it out here on BlackRock. Down at the bottom of the story, this is one of their private credit portfolios. It's produced a 10.2% annualized total return since it was formed. But with that, 13% of the money they want back, they want redemptions, and they've capped it here.
Yep, absolutely. I think there's some concern about some of the credit funds exposure to software companies. That's been an issue. Artificial intelligence, how's that going to impact some of these companies?
Last quarter, 9.3%, now up to 13.3%. Scilla and Olivia make the distinction between the BlackRock approach, the Blackstone approach. That article's out there. That will move Global Wall Street. How about Stock Movers? It's a podcast. Alexis Christoforous.
Let's kick things off with Adobe because it's got some openings in its C-suite. Its chief financial officer is leaving the company just months after its CEO said he was stepping down. That stock is down about 9%. It is down 37% so far this year, now hovering near its lowest level in about 7 years. But here's the deal. Adobe's quarterly results and outlook, they were better than expected. But this announcement that the CFO is leaving on the heels of the CEO leaving has, overshadowed things. For a while now, Wall Street has been concerned about Adobe's ability to do its business in the face of AI disruption. Adobe Photoshop, you must be familiar with that, right? That's the software that a lot of pros use. So they're saying that it's easy for AI to come in there and sort of mimic what Adobe is doing. So now they're looking for new leaders at the top. And at least 2 firms are lowering their price target this morning on Adobe, including BMO Capital from $285 to $230 a share.
This is just like the whole innovation thing.
It's coming.
It folds into the SpaceX worries as well. I don't know. Okay, next.
Lennar, home builder, third quarter forecast for new orders and deliveries below expectations. On the earnings call, the CEO said headwinds like elevated mortgage rates, inflation, cautious consumers, all keeping a lot of the homeowners on the sideline. So they're trimming their full year delivery forecast. And here's the deal. There's really sort of the tale of 2 home builders out there because Lennar's average home price sale is around $370,000 with incentives. Actually, incentives have been running about 14%, and it's all due to mortgage buy downs at Lennar. But then you've got Toll Brothers, where the average price that they sell a home at tops $1 million. They're seeing order growth. They're seeing solid gross margins. And get this, nearly half of the 20 analysts that Bloomberg tracks have sell ratings on Lennar, while Toll Brothers has 1 out of 20. So I think that tells you the story right there.
6.57 in the 30-year Paul. It's really not broken out of the range.
It hasn't.
To be fair, it's gone from 8% down to 6.57. I need to see a little more like over 7% before I can say OMG rates.
But people aren't comfortable with these rates here. So there you go. What else you got?
I have got, we've got like a cluster of stocks because we know space is taking over Wall Street today with the SpaceX IPO. So as a result, we're seeing other space-related stocks rallying. EchoStar is higher. Investors see the satellite maker as a proxy for SpaceX because it reached a deal last year to sell Musk's company Spectrum in return for about 2% of SpaceX stock. So EchoStar has a lot to gain today. Rocket Lab higher as well. By the way, it's going to be, I looked a little deeper. It's not all about SpaceX. Rocket Lab's going to be joining the NASDAQ 100 later this month. And also a satellite maker, AST Space Mobile, Firefly Aerospace, all higher because of this.
So anything with the name space in it's going to do
It's
well
a pretty
today.
good bet, at least today.
Here's something interesting, guys. You put up SpaceX and you use the BQ function. It gives you a lot of information, including what does BI say the comps are for SpaceX? And here's what they say. It's a couple of satellite companies, SiriusXM and Space Exploration. It's an EchoStar. It's a couple of cable television companies, telecom companies, Charter and Comcast. Also some defense contractors like General Dynamics.
Right.
So BI is telling you, I don't know, it's a collection of all the businesses.
But I think it's all under the umbrella of AI. It's really impacting every part of the business.
Love and Spoonful for Alexis Christoforous. Good morning.
This is Bloomberg Surveillance with Tom Keene and Paul Sweeney.
There is a reality of a sharp disinflation in China.
President Trump continues his pressure on this Federal Reserve.
With Alexis Christoforous on markets.
We're seeing other chip stocks rally today.
And Michael Barr with news.
The Trump administration's proposal to end the war in Ukraine.
The best in economics, finance, investment, and international relations. Bloomberg Surveillance on Bloomberg Radio, Bloomberg Originals, and the Bloomberg Business app.
Good morning, everyone. Tom Keene, Paul Sweeney, Michael Barr, Alexis Christoforous. 9 o'clock, 30 minutes from the opening. Paul, we're going to go to Yahira in a moment.
Yes.
But what's your guess when we'll start trading SpaceX?
Boy, some of these things have been really late morning, and some people are saying this could be even later than that. But I think they're going to try to do this.
I agree.
A little bit on their
I'm a little. We'll get the word from Yahira here in a moment. I'm thinking 11 a.m. is a single point bet, as they say. Futures just give it back, up 50 earlier, now up 5. I have a dearth of headlines from Iran, a dearth of headlines on SpaceX right now with a lot of opinion each and every way. And I got Brent crude down $2.24, $88.15 a barrel.
Yep, and we got the futures off the highs from earlier this morning, so we'll keep an eye on that.
Bloomberg Surveillance across America. It's brought to you by Eisner Amper. Most advisors, they tell you what happened. Eisner Amper tells you what to do about it. Assurance, tax, outsourcing, and advisory services built for businesses that cannot afford to guess. EisnerAmper.com. And we thank them for heritage support as well. She's at the NASDAQ. We go to Yahira Anand here waiting out the opening. Yahira, is there any gossip, word, rumor, speculation of the timing of a first trade?
I believe we just lost
we just lost her.
She's lost in space.
She went out. I know what happened. She's downtown. She went out to buy Nick's merch.
There we go.
That's
For me,
what it is.
Yeah, I sent her out there.
Let's do that from the Interactive Broker Studios. An Audible to Bloomberg Business Flash.
All right.
Alexis Christoforous.
Thanks, Tom. Stock futures, they've turned mixed. Oil at its lowest now in weeks on hopes the U.S. and Iran are close to an interim peace deal that would reopen the Strait of Hormuz. S&P futures now up just a scant 2 points. Dow futures up 157. NASDAQ futures reversing an earlier rally, now down 110 points. We've got Brent crude well off its highs of the morning at $88 a barrel, down 2.5%. It was down more than 4% earlier. West Texas Intermediate crude down 3% at $85 a barrel. The Bloomberg Dollar Spot Index gaining a little strength here this morning at 1207.65, and yields are now higher after moving lower earlier this morning. The 2-year yield up 1 basis point, 4.08%. 10-year yield up 2 basis points at 4.48%. Adobe shares are lower by about 7%. The company said its CFO would depart months after its CEO announced he's going to be stepping down. That's overshadowing a better than expected quarterly earnings report. And a small number of firms are set to net tens of billions of dollars in return from SpaceX's IPO at a nearly $1.8 trillion valuation. Founders Fund, Andreessen Horowitz, and Sequoia Capital among the venture firms that will get significant returns today. And that's a Bloomberg Business Flash. Tom and Paul.
Thank you so much, Alexis Christoforous, for saving the moment there. We'll try to get back to Yahira Anand at the NASDAQ as we move towards a market opening in 27 minutes. Paul and I have been looking this morning for moments to stop and do more traditional, prosaic discussions of economics, finance, investment, of international relations. We can do that with Sarah Wolf at Morgan Stanley, thematic macro investing as well. Sarah, what's your theme into the rest of 2026?
The biggest theme that we're looking at is around multipolar world. And I actually think that the SpaceX IPO fits right into this, where we really are entering a new frontier of this globally fragmented economy, where we're seeing intense reshoring, diversification of supply chains, and now we're entering new frontiers such as space, where we're competing with the rest of the world on technological innovation and dominating the space atmosphere with satellites.
So, Sarah, in the context of a broader discussion of inflation, how does AI fit into that? Is AI inflationary at this point?
Well, what we're seeing is that amid all this AI-driven demand, we're seeing increasing supply shocks at the same time. And so there's these very fragile choke points that are causing prices to rise for things like GPUs, semiconductors, right? Everything that's going into building out, empowering AI. The reality is, though, all of these things that go into these AI models are also a lot of the same things that go into consumer products. So over the last 4 or 5 months, we've been seeing this AI story push up producer prices and start to bleed into consumer prices as well. So at a time when the Fed is looking at the tariff effects, hoping that they're going to be abating soon, that oil prices are not going to bleed into core inflation, we also need to be watching the AI effects on consumer prices. And this AI build out story, $800 billion of CapEx this year, over $1 trillion next year, that's likely to be inflationary.
Okay, so when you and Ellen Zentner sit down over tea on this, and I'm featuring at 12 noon today the Citadel essay, folks, Frank Flight, that I thought was really a nice sum of this. The price theory, Sarah Wolf, of this is basically falling apart. How do you envision the microeconomics, the price discovery, the scarcity dynamic? How will that work out over the next 18 months?
Over the long run, AI is likely to be disinflationary. We can all agree on that, right? Once we get these productivity benefits, it's going to lower the cost of goods and services, increase welfare for people. But our thesis is that AI adoption and real productivity gains are really hard, especially when you look at the micro level on a company by company basis. There's a lot of work in what we call intangible CapEx that needs to be done at the enterprise level to actually see meaningful adoption and see that disinflationary effect. And I still think we're quite a bit away from that. And over the next 18 months, it's really going to be inflation driven by the AI infrastructure CapEx story before we get those productivity gains at the company level.
Sarah, we're going to get a Federal Reserve meeting next week, and we have a new Federal Reserve chair.
Haven't even talked about it.
I know. It just popped up on my screen. So what are you going to be looking for from the new Fed chair, Warsh?
Well, we know from the new Fed chair that he favors a little bit less communication, and there's a lot of concern for markets that it's going to cause more uncertainty and volatility. My view is that it's not necessarily the communication from Kevin Warsh that's going to cause more uncertainty or volatility, but it's really what's happening on the broader FOMC. We're seeing a lack of consensus, more dissent on what the future policy path should be, and that is going to cause more uncertainty. For the Fed meeting itself, we're going to get a summary of economic projections. The last one we got was in March. A lot has changed in the last few months. Growth is coming in stronger, but at the same time, inflation is higher. And what we're seeing among economists and the FOMC is more of a consensus that neutral is higher. And so that cut for this year is going to be taken out of the projections, likely a cut or two for next year as well. And we're going to be entering this world of higher for longer. The last thing I'll say is that we do think that Chair Warsh is going to be focused more on these trimmed inflation mean measures.
Interesting.
So we know core PCE is above 3%, but if you look at the Dallas trim mean, it's closer to 2%. So that's a little bit more favorable for easier policy.
I want to get you in trouble. There's a huge, you know how many people they have working under Ellen Zentner?
Yep.
In Sarah Wolf? It's like 42 people or whatever. In your meeting, Sarah Wolf, how disparate is trim mean, Cleveland, and all the rest from PCE? What's that research paper look like for Monday?
Well, if you look at the trim mean, they're basically trying to pull out outliers that are causing one-off pushes in inflation, right? So you have the oil shock, tariff shock, right? These are not seen as inflationary pressures, but price shocks. And so these trim means are trying to push out and clean the data for these more volatile categories of inflation.
Sarah, I got to leave it there.
In my view. The last thing I'll add is that.
Please.
All right.
No, please.
The last thing I'll add is that for the FOMC and for the Fed chair, we saw this over the last 6 years where they like to look at measures of inflation that help reinforce their views. So this could go out of fashion in the next 6 months if we see the trim mean rise above regular core.
Brilliant. Sarah Wolf, thank you so much for the brief. Paul, thanks for bringing up the Fed. How quaint on a Friday before the Fed meeting. Ms. Wolf is with Morgan Stanley. At the NASDAQ, our Yahira Anand on this historic morning. What's the mood, Yahira, at the NASDAQ exchange in Midtown?
Hi, Tom. Well, we have heard from the NASDAQ in the last hour that SpaceX will be eligible for trading at 10 a.m. Eastern. And I can tell you from what I'm seeing behind me is that the anticipation is building. I just spotted President Gwynne Shotwell behind me taking pictures in front of the NASDAQ podium. CFO Brett Johnson is down there with her. But even though it will be eligible for trading at 10 a.m. Eastern, we probably won't see that first trade until hours from then. But as you and Paul were saying, I might be wrong, and we could see the first trade shortly after then.
Yeah, Hyra, getting the largest IPO of all time, that is a huge get for NASDAQ vis-a-vis the NYSE. What are you hearing from the NASDAQ people about the importance of getting this big IPO?
It has been huge for them, and as we know, they even changed some of their rules in order to be able to get this big IPO. We know that Lynn Martin over at the S&P was over at the NYSE was not happy about this. So it is a huge moment for them, and we are seeing it here as the anticipation builds. And you know, one of the biggest questions this morning is, you know, how much demand is still sitting on the sidelines for SpaceX? As we know, the deal was reportedly more than 4 times oversubscribed. Retail investors alone are said to have placed more than $100 billion worth of orders. So this is a big moment for the NASDAQ, and to make sure that the financial plumbing is in place to take all of this supply into the market.
I look, Yahira, in a story just out here on the SpaceX dream as well. I get all the happy talk and ribbon cutting. I thought John Farrell this morning on the Yahira Anand Hour, you know, on Bloomberg Television, you know, that's what we call it here at Bloomberg, the Yahira. It's the Yahira Hour. You know, there's some pushback, Yahira. Is there any understanding among the celebratory champagne at the NASDAQ that there's a little bit of skepticism out there?
You know, you're not seeing it here because you have investors that you know joined the company earlier, invested early, that are going to be making a lot of money. So it's very celebratory here, Tom. But at the end of the day, yeah, you are right. This is not a profitable company. They have moonshot vision to, you know, have data centers in place by 2028. That is not far from now. So the skepticism is justified, but I can tell you that here it is too early to pop the champagne, but there's a lot of celebration going around.
Yahira, 12 noon, that's when you go for the pop in the champagne. Yahira Anand at the NASDAQ today with continuing reporting worldwide for Bloomberg Television, Bloomberg Radio, and all of our digital properties as well. Futures up 13, up 50, 5-0 earlier. They pulled back the NASDAQ 19 before and 4-1. Paul, the screen looks like a Friday. I mean, all of a sudden, X-Iran, X the president, X what we could see there, X SpaceX with a little bit of quiet here at 9:13 Wall Street time. It's a Friday screen.
It's a Friday screen until we get this first trade for SpaceX, and then I think it's going to be pretty exciting.
I would
Hopefully it
agree.
happens before 12 noon.
And we'll see in the derivatives market published early this morning out of Germany by Bloomberg shows a lift. We'll see if that occurs. That's just speculation. Never speculation. Our news in New York City. Here's Michael Barr.
Thank you very much, Tom. President Donald Trump has announced that the U.S. and Iran might reach an agreement to end a 3-month-old war. Now, he has said that before that a deal was within reach. Meanwhile, senior officials say the U.S. and Iran may sign an agreement to reopen the Strait of Hormuz on the sidelines of the Group of 7 World Leaders Summit next week in France. Former Defense Department official Mick Mulroy says, though, he's skeptical that there is a deal.
Until both parties accept the terms of the agreement in the signing ceremony, it's technically not an agreement yet.
Former Defense Department official Mick Mulroy spoke to ABC. Hot weather will settle over New York and the U.S. Northeast through the end of the week. Bloomberg meteorologist Craig Allen has the latest.
The eastern two-thirds of the nation will have to endure another day of heat and oppressive humidity. Temperatures up to 15 to 20 degrees above average means 90s, and a heat index over 100 for Washington to New York City into New England, just inland from the harbor around Boston. And with FIFA World Cup games and the request to take mass transit, there is concern for Amtrak and commuter trains because of
All right,
heat
yo,
on
I'm
the
back.
tracks
Oh, wait,
and
hold on. Let
overhead
me
power lines.
mute that.
We're not going to be concerned with. We're going to actually close this. I'm gonna close this. We got 6 minutes before the market opens. So that's my pre-market post for this SpaceX, and we are at $31, sitting flat, sitting flat. So we're gonna shut everything down. Actually, we're down 607. So my stuff is frozen up, man. I think that's what's gonna be the problem today is data's gonna be messing up all day. So I'm restarting everything. Stock's 5150.